right, we got David Christian with us. Hell yeah.
Hey,
What's going on with you, man?
I'm just taking it day by day, I'm sure like the rest of us, right? How
Yeah,
are you?
I'm okay. It's kind of hard to see. Kind of forget like which day it is sometimes. It's
Tell me.
Memorial Day today. But it's like this is like the movement weekend in Detroit.
I know I would have been there too, just to party, or
Right.
we would have had something going on, right?
Oh no,
Like,
we would have had something going on. I had a plan and everything, but I just back in March when this thing hit, I was like, this is not happening. You know.
yeah, you
So
kind of saw the signs.
So it was yeah, so now there's like I think they're doing a stream or something, but it's you know
Yeah, I saw Drum Cell's performance. Was it yesterday or the day before? But yeah, Drum Cell was pretty tight in his studio. I guess it's pretty cool performance.
yeah, I mean it's a lot of people are a lot sober than they usually are. I tell you
I
what.
can't drink. Yeah, I drink socially. So it's hard for me, even in a video screen, to have a drink with someone. It's kind of weird. So I laid off the booze, kind of, maybe like a little bit of a drink here and there. But
Yeah, what I'm saying in Detroit this weekend, like there would have been a lot of not sober people. Let's say that. So
oh yeah, I remember like it was the closest thing to being like at a European festival, because you were going to those after parties in different spots, and go hopping from different after party to after party. And it was almost like the after party was better than the actual well, I didn't go to the festival. I just went there for the after party.
well, there were so many. There's always so many cool ones, and the actual festival, there's probably like, I usually every day of the festival, I want to see like one or two people, but I'm not there for the whole lineup. So I haven't gone in a lot in the last 3 years or so, 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I heard the lineups are really, really good, like many years ago, before. Like
Well,
didn't Nitsa play one
I
time?
was there. Yeah. Nitsa played. It was amazing. They played like the main stage with
Wow.
giant sound, and it was really good. Autechre played the first one, you know, they played like the underground stage, and it was insane because it was not danceable music at all. It was just madness. People were trying to dance, but it was
Insane.
not happening. Yeah, like I don't like. It's hard to remember the time before the festival. Like I vaguely remember the late '90s when it wasn't happening, but
Mm.
it's been happening for 2 decades now. Which is pretty intense.
Well, that city, I'm sure like you always had shit happening, right? Like there's always stuff, going on.
There is, but that's like they call it techno Christmas.
Yeah.
Um, so, um, but you've been doing these streams, and yeah, my daughter is asking me something here. No, it's not here. I think it's upstairs. Go look for it. So yeah, you've been doing these streams. So what like prompted that? I guess aside, like a lot of people are doing them now, but you're like going full on with it. It seems like so with your streaming stuff.
Uh, I mean, I don't think I'm reacting differently than like anyone else that's doing it, because it's like like any other business. And it's crazy to think about it, because like the kind of music that we do, but it is like a business, and it's a business to keep you alive. And right
Yeah.
now you have your hands tied behind your back, so you can't, normally to promote a release or your music, you play some gigs, and you go out, even just to go out and meet people, like you go out and socialize. And that's half the issues that a lot of artists have, is they're not social people, so they can't really go out and promote their own thing. So they have publicists, they have people that go out and promote for them. But there's really nothing you can do but go online and stream. And when it all started, everybody just got a crash course on how to do it. And nobody's that I know personally has really perfected that, because it has to do with equipment and knowing how to use it and bandwidth and having the right kind of internet connection. But
Yeah.
That's the only way right now to really get the music out to people, is to stream. And it's not, at the beginning I was reluctant, because when all this is happening, you really have a reaction of like, I can't, like, what am I gonna do? It's like, I'm just gonna maybe watch some movies on Netflix and like try to work on music. But like, if you don't have that inspiration, or if you can't, that motivation to create music, you can't really do anything. But once you if you go on, and there's people that are stuck at home too, and they miss going to the club, and they want to hear music. So from what I've experienced, people are grateful that you're streaming and you're doing things. And it's not perfect, because especially the DJ sets, that's not a platform that was really meant for that stuff, because there's a lot of rights involved, like royalty rights and stuff like that. And I wish those platforms found a way to a middle ground, so that the DJs and the artists can do what they do and everybody gets a fair share. But right now it's a weird kind of underground, because it's Twitch, it's Amazon, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it gets millions and millions of viewers and people, like, but you look at these huge EDM promoters and stuff, and they're on Twitch, and they've got thousands of viewers and subscribers, and they're doing their, no offense to anybody, but like, they're doing their shitty music. I can, it's the same, and you have a lot of people doing the same. And even like Beatport has something, and they found like interesting ways of streaming, because they have interviews and kind of some webinars and stuff like that, so that at least they don't have to deal with the royalty aspect of it. But it certainly helped. Like, I'm doing this. I'm not doing this solely for streaming to my fans and people that like this music, but also to keep alive. It's like being in a coma. You can't do anything. Like, you're just you're stifled, with a way to promote your music. And it's helped. It's definitely helped. I've been busy. Actually, I'm blessed, but I have to go to the post office now more often, because a lot of people have been ordering from the Bandcamp site.
Oh,
and
perfect.
Yeah. Well, it sucks because it's international stuff, and then
yeah.
I wasn't upkeeping on the shipping costs. So a few of those shirts I had to sell, and I made a profit of like $2. Just decline this phone call here. I had to just eat it, because like, I'm grateful that people want the shirt. Like, someone in Spain ordered the shirt, but I ended up like selling it really for $2, because the shipping is like $20. It's insane, how much shipping is to go to Europe.
Is it getting to the people?
But it's great. It's great that you have a way to promote your music and actually sell and sustain. Instead, you might have to sell your gear and just, that's it at that end.
Yeah.
I hope more people do it. I hope more artists are able to do it, but I understand a lot of people aren't able to do it, financial reasons or time wise. They're still working. So I'm just grateful for the people that are.
Yeah, I'm enjoying your streams. You're doing like weekly shows, which is a tremendous amount of effort, really. Because you're doing, what is it, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday? Is that right?
But yeah, Thursday to Sunday.
And Thursday to Sunday, okay. But still, that's 4 days of, and you have different themes, I guess, each night. So that's interesting. And and it's been cool. Like I've been doing that Thursday night thing, and Cody's been doing Friday, so that's been
Yeah, you started off. I mean, I would love to have. I love to just keep having you out there because it's good.
yeah. It's actually been fun to put those DJ sets together. Like I wasn't sure, but I'm not like when I DJ, I'm not playing usually playing techno or anything like that. But yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun showcasing like a bit of the Low Res catalog that's out there, which is a Detroit-based like broken beat breakcore label that my friend did. So there's a lot of those records that seem relevant now. All those old Bombardier records, and stuff like that. So
Yeah, what's great is like you have the room now to do that, and I'm sure like we were all sneaking tracks in at a club or anything, but now you could play whatever. You could sneak in whatever, and you have people that want to hear stuff, and they're not reluctant to listen to it and go on the dance floor or something like that. Like it's not going to clear a room.
yes,
You have people in there and they're listening to it and it's something new. Like that's great.
yeah, it's not having a dance floor definitely helps. I think because I guess most people, I don't know what they're listening to it on. Hopefully some speakers, but maybe even their phone. But
Yeah.
that's fine. They're just chilling and listening to it. They're not dancing,
Yeah.
and and
They're like they're in their underwear or they've got their favorite drink or they're with their pets, or
yeah, yeah. Um, Now, how do you feel about I guess, the interact? So the chat room thing is really interesting to me because it's like this meta layer of what you're doing. Like, imagine if you're playing a club and you could hear what people at the bar are talking about, right? I
yeah.
feel like it's kind of like that, right? You have this extra sense now of perception in a way where you can hear these people's side conversations as you're playing music. Sometimes they like the track or whatever, so that's an interesting gauge. But it is how do you feel about that?
It's funny. I've played some shitty clubs like that don't have a good sound system, so you are actually hearing conversations that are like in the front row. But not at City Club. That never ever happened at City Club.
Well, if you think about like, yeah, if you're playing the back room and you like mic'd up the bar, you could like hear it. That's how I feel when I'm looking at the Twitch thing, at the stream and the chat room. And I want to look at it because I want to make sure my thing is still going. So
That is one reason. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
that's
I did want to ask you, like, because when you're DJing and you're DJing in front of people or performing,
uh,
there's a back and forth energy, right? So
yeah,
do you get that same energy when you're doing it or
not
similar?
not the same. I mean, you're getting that chat room feedback, right? So there's a translation of like when you're seeing people dance in front of you, it's a visual thing, right?
Hmm.
And maybe there's I don't know, some electromagnetic energy. I don't know what's going on there, right? But when you're seeing the screen and the words, it's like they take their feelings and they put them into words, and then you're translating that into feedback for yourself, right? So there's definitely feedback happening. It's not the same. I mean,
Yeah, it's probably like the equivalent of a Facebook like, that little surge of energy when you get a like. That's probably the equivalent of that in the chat room.
yeah, it's something similar to that, but it does happen, which is you know, it does.
But not the same as seeing a packed floor dancing to one of your tracks or something that you spun in there that you get feedback on.
No, or even not even the dancing. It's just the people, the presence of the people, and the fact that they're there and they're intaking that audio information. And that's a weird. So I do those Mobius strip nights where there's usually no dance floor, and I play like ambient stuff. But the fact that you can have 15 people there, and it's usually a small crowd, they just sit there and drink those expensive drinks or whatever.
Yeah.
And like uh, something about that playing to them is you see like, oh, they're interacting, and they don't mind the music or something like that. Like it becomes part of the environment.
Oh yeah, it's great when you have the win-win situation where, you get to play whatever you want that you think is like really awesome music, and then other people enjoy it and they're doing their thing, and it's not all about like one entity. It's like a transfer of energy. It goes from the music, the DJ or the performer to the audience and back and forth. That's something that you lack when you're streaming, but I guess you got to take whatever you can get.
Yeah, no, I mean, you definitely get some, but that thing you were saying, it makes me think of the Sound 2, what was it, Sound 2? No, I think it may be the Tao Te Ching, when they go like through the list of what a good leader is. And like one of the highest ones is like when you're in total control and you can like lead people. But the highest one is where they don't know that you're leading, You're like imperceptible, So you're like setting the mood behind the scenes but so that's
well, it's all about like, and forgive me for getting, well, you brought it up with the philosophy, but the way I just see life is like in performing is just like trying to control the waves. You've got the waves of energy, and if you start not giving that energy, or like keeping away from it, not really pushing the wave, or pushing it in a negative way, you're going to get negative results. You're going to get flat results. But there's just a wave when you're somewhere in a party or a room or even a virtual room. Like there's some wave going on, and it's like you push the wave and it gets pushed back, and it's you're actually like manipulating, like you said, like you're controlling the night, you're controlling the mood without people knowing.
yeah.
They feel it, and maybe they're not sure what they feel. Maybe they think it's them. Maybe they think it's the person they're with or the people they're with, and they're not necessarily knowing that it's the DJ or performer.
Yeah.
The chat interface is interesting because like 20 years ago, that's how I was. I was socially awkward. So
Oh no, it reminds me of like the AOL chat room days for sure.
totally, yeah.
Like
but you still went to clubs. Like there were people that still went to clubs and stuff, but they would maybe the day after go in the chat room and talk about. I mean, this was like when I was early, not even goth, but like going to the only club that would have goth and industrial. So
yeah.
Great to have an outlet and find people that like the music that you like, and find out different music remixes, all that stuff was great. And I was wondering that, like, wow, 20 years ago we were doing stuff like that. I wonder if it's ever going to come back, or if there's ever a way, because there's so much noise. And this is what happened. This is what it took to have that come back, where you have a chat room and you have people meeting each other from all over the world, like Spain, New Zealand, just coming and interacting. It's great in that way.
It is. It's a good networking thing for sure for people, and just creating this community, the global community and whatnot. Do you feel like it's something that's going to sustain past the pandemic, if whenever that is? But like, would you still want to have, if you're doing your night, would you want to have a Twitch component to it?
Well, this is what before this all happened, I was trying to find an interactive way, and I remember somebody mentioning Twitch, and I saw the video game connotation to it, and it turned me off. Because when I think I know all ages play video games and stuff, but I just thought, well, people that go to clubs and they like this kind of music, like they might like it, but it's not like the majority of what I want, so I was looking at like the Boiler Room and the horror sets,
Yep.
from in, and you're like, oh, well, why don't we, maybe we could do something with our nights here, like, because our, we have like, we had some monthly club nights here in LA, in downtown LA, and like, why can't we do something similar? How do we do this? And I just got pushed off, and this is like, became a necessity to do this. And before I even got everyone together for this Thursday, I had the intention of like, this is going to happen even after, like, and it would be great to have people use this as a way to maybe test out music nights, clubs, and also their sets, and DJs who aren't experienced in playing around, like, they'll have a weekly time. It's almost like DJ school, like, I mentioned there earlier, there's someone like every week or every other day you're streaming, and it doesn't matter if you have 22 people, 100 people, you're still like finding ways to practice like online. So I think it's a great way for all the DJs to just keep on their game. And even the DJs that weren't DJing at clubs before, at outside clubs, now they've got the practice. And, once that's something they want to do, they go out and they do it, For me, definitely, it's kept me like still searching for new music, and like, just experimenting with shit. And, it's a lot of, it's a great way to keep sanity. Like, if you're a musician, if you used to go to clubs and spin and
yeah, draw some inspiration, see what people respond to. That makes sense. So you prefer Twitch over Facebook and Zoom, I guess. I don't know. Some people are doing a Zoom component with Twitch. I'm not sure.
I'm not. I mean, I think Zoom is cool for like more intimate stuff. There's like a Chicago party that happens every Sunday that is very enjoyable to see. Like, a lot of people. There's like people that you don't know. There's people that but it's like, it feels like a small house party.
Right.
In the beginning, I really wanted to push on the Facebook platform because it's a direct way for your fans to get notified, and like people that aren't going to download another app, they already have Facebook, or Instagram. But the problem with that is that Facebook is so ad driven that they want you to boost everything, and it just costs it. And if I put money into it and I got good results, then that would be great. But there's times that I put money into advertising, and I get like, like 10 people that I see that see the post or like it, and they're a weird, strange account from Mexico or like another country, and I'm looking at their account and I'm like, this has to be a fake account, like some like, I mean, I don't judge, everybody has their music taste, but some dude with like a family in Zimbabwe is into like my set, my industrial set. I mean, that's cool if they are, but it's not the audience that I'm trying to reach. Like, I'm not trying to tour in Zimbabwe, so
maybe you are, I don't know, but yeah, no,
it would be great. I would love to play in Zimbabwe. I'll play anywhere, but I don't think that's where the market is.
No, I think you get a lot of bots once you go outside of United States and Europe. Yeah.
And like, that's really the main reason for the push on Facebook. But with the DJ stuff, they hit you right away. They kick you off like with anything that's copyrighted, so that's not going to work. Twitch does it, but it does it after it's replayed. They'll mute parts, but that takes a while. So it's great that you can still have that live experience. You can, and not have to worry about being booted off. So it's been a constant stream.
The thing I like about Twitch is like it's made for streaming, versus Facebook. They have a streaming component, but they're not,
Exactly. Yeah, it has that virtual infrastructure for handling all that stuff, and
it's like working with a drum machine versus a computer. It's like, computer is great and it does all the stuff, but you can also like go on Google with it, so you.
Yeah. it's not specifically
the
made.
distraction is tremendous, you know.
Yeah.
But speaking of that, so you like your live sets have been all hardware, right?
Well,
Or
that that's kind of how it's been for the past few years. But
yeah,
if I'm streaming a performance, I'm still not keen on streaming a full performance, because when I perform like my own original music, I do prefer that energy in the room. And I can't see myself really streaming a full like live set. So what I've been doing is the first at Terminus, and then was what was the second one was
you played the
oh
Industrial Detroit one, yeah.
yeah, that, and then oh yeah, I didn't do the distorted disco thing. But what I've been doing is working on newer material, but like kind of doing it in phases. And I did, I'm working with the hardware, but I'm like also improvising, and like, so it's kind of like you could see this, way of develop of the album, like, or whatever release I'm gearing it towards, kind of develop over time. So like the
Yeah.
first improv thing I did, was pretty raw, a lot of like just rough ideas. And then what I did with the Detroit, the industrial Detroit thing was, a little more of an evolution to it. And then last Saturday I did a hybrid set, which included a lot of that material too.
Uh-huh.
And that was a lot of fun. But of course, like the evolution of those sounds like uh, went further, and now is more phases of production. So like I think it might be interesting to some people that like they'll get a different experience. It's not me playing the same stuff or anything that you would actually hear, but it's like
Yeah.
evolved or adapted to live, seeing something improvised that won't happen again. Like I didn't record it. I mean, it's on Twitch, but I'm not like I'm not in a rush to download my past two performances on there, because they're really just like improvised stuff.
I think you should download them just for the sake of catalog,
Yeah,
you know.
like many years from now, they're either like cringe worthy or they're interesting.
No, I thought your set was good. I mean, it's definitely interesting to hear like more raw stuff like that, you know. Um, I mean, I'm a fan of that.
Well, like over time, your stuff as an artist, you look back at it and you like look at
Yes.
everything that you could have done or mistakes and stuff like that. So
It's pretty interesting because you have been doing Cervello for, almost 20 years now, right?
yeah,
And have you
sounds so weird when you say that. It just sounds weird.
well, I think it's a tremendous thing. I think not to use that word, um but I don't know, fucking Trump fucked up tremendous, I swear. But
Huge.
huge.
China.
But it is tremendous. It's like cultivation of your work, your life work, really, in a way. So, um, have you been doing it the whole time, or it seems like you have a lot of side projects, but
Well, the biggest side project while I was doing all this stuff was Life. Like it was really a part-time thing. You
uh-huh.
know, I remember there was a moment in like, because really like when I was starting out, and who gave me my big break was like Terrafact, because just touring with Ben and Terrafact, like that got me like this adrenaline shot of like, okay, I can do my own project and I can go out and I can play. So that helped immensely. But then, there's a certain point, because you meet people on tour, you meet people like, wherever you go, whatever. And I remember a certain point, I was asked, hey, do you want to go out and roadie for V&V Nation?
Well,
Because you could get some like contacts, and like, as somebody with a music project at that time, it was like, early 2000s. And I'm like, holy shit, I've got a band or I've got a music project, and I got invited to go and like roadie for V&V Nation. Like I could just like, oh, when Ronan is like in his downtime, I could give him my demo, like something stupid when you're young, like you think about stuff like that. but I think I was level-headed enough to say, wait a minute, man, that's good. First of all, that's a different world from what I do, you know. And then
Yeah.
second, life, you know, like I need to sustain a good job. I need, you know, to, you know, keep in my relationships back then. So I'm like, I'm not gonna go on this tour and then be unemployed in 6 months. And you know, I very props to anybody who does that stuff. Like in one person I know, a friend of mine, Dan from Aesthetic Perfection, he went
Uh-huh.
full on. He does that as his job, his main job. And like, I'm proud of that guy. Like he's actually found a way, you know, like there's a lot of artists that can find a way to do that, but I couldn't do it. You know, I had to have a backup plan. I had to really like look out for the long run. And so I didn't opt for the, you know, the weird possibility of opportunities. And like, I could still do my thing. I played, you know, some shows, and I ended up like, you know, still writing music. And, you know, and then eventually I got, you know, harder and, you know, sent some demos to the Hands label. And then, you know, that evolved into a different era. And, you know, a few years back is when everything really went into overdrive. You know?
Mm. So you actually sent demos to Hands? You didn't know people? It was just cold, you know, send them a
Yeah.
demo thing? Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it just really depends on timing. Timing is everything.
Yeah.
And if let's say you have this awesome project, your music is so like tight, and you send it, there's an off chance that he may never listen to it because it gets lost in an email or lost in some kind of shuffle. But if it's at the right time, at the right moment, and I sent it like just after like Orphix, you know, was like just huge with the techno realm. And, you know, he was doing releases with that. And, you know, there was Geist Form, which was always a cool project evolving and stuff. And I knew Udo. I had met him before at the festivals, and like, because I loved going to all the European festivals. So he knew me from the start, but I did send him something that was like, you know, the beginning of all the releases that were going to come out. And, you know, he dug it. So
That's cool. Yeah. That's
I would
but
say like send demos to everybody. Don't be afraid. You know, what's the worst that can happen? They don't listen to it.
yeah.
Just, you know,
Well,
take your
sending demos now is like well, I guess you just send them a SoundCloud link or something. I'm not sure how that works, but
exactly. That's better, because at least before, when you send demos, you were like, is this shit going to end up in the trash?
right.
But now you can see like, oh wait, they actually listened to it.
Yeah,
You know, and
somebody clicked on it.
yeah,
Uh,
they listened to it like 5 times, and then 5 days later they listen to it again. Like, it's great. It's actually
okay.
like
It's great when that
stronger.
happens, or you see that they listen to it for 30 seconds and then
Yeah. You're like, oh, I guess he hated it or
but they
whatever.
hated it, man. So let me get this timeline straight here. So you were living in New York when you started the project, right? And then at what point did you end up in LA? What year was that?
Oh, that was like 2008, like 8,
Okay.
9. Yeah, that was a major life decision, because I was miserable in New York, and I didn't know where to find the cool music, because everything at that time in New York to me was all these events, these fetish events with
Right.
Suicide Commando clone music, and that was not my thing. I did not fit into that realm. And coming here, I knew there was like you know, from hearing about Das Bunker and all the shows, legendary shows, I knew that it was more of a bigger scene for that. But also getting into techno, like it's a techno city, LA. You got like LA, Berlin, Detroit, you know, New York. And I was like, I can't live in New York. I got to go to LA. And then another reason is practicality of my job. I got a promotion, and I got a better job in LA. So
Hmm. Yeah, and you feel like that changed your sound a bit though, moving from New York to LA.
Oh, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of. I mean, you're definitely influenced by your surroundings.
Yeah,
I spent I spent a year living on Marching Dynamics couch my first year in LA, so I'm sure like a lot of that stuff seeped in as the year progressed, and like, um, yeah, no, there's like a lot of cool bands that were playing, like Waste, and it, it's just a lot of cool. You have like a lot of variety, and then you have stuff that isn't industrial and uh, like the techno stuff, that the parties, the droid parties, and dark matter, and
yeah,
a lot of stuff that isn't. It's sort of you'll see people dressed in black, but it's nothing like the industrial parties, and it's just such a great variety. And like going back to New York now, I see there's a lot more of that, and I'm almost like, really, I moved and then it got better, but I think a lot of there were parties still, going on, but I just, was not finding it at that time. So,
there was yeah, there was a period in that mid 2000s and up until, I mean, even as late as like 2011, 2012, where people didn't know what, I mean, it just seemed like it was kind of a shaky ground, you know. It was coming out of that synth pop era of, like you're saying, like V and V, whatever.
yeah.
And where, like, where was it all going, So you can only make it so poppy until people don't want to go to the club anymore, And,
Well, even the noise rhythmic with the power noise stuff, like aspect of it, like all those bands, they were kind of going in the um I don't want to say dubstep, but also breakcore, jungle, all that stuff,
right.
with the Ad Nauseam label and everything, like in the late, thousands, early tens, stuff was like ruling. That kind of sound was ruling that, and there wasn't as much for like power noise stuff, like, what Hypnoskull or Convert. Well, Hypnoskull did do breakcore stuff, but like there was none of that, like not much of that classic sound that was like in the late 90s, like, early 2000s. But the techno realm had that, and it was
Yes.
funny to go see that stuff in a different scene, and I was like, oh wow, this is like some really hard shit, and nobody here is dressed in black. It was just like weird to me.
But now it's funny you mentioned the timing of it, like the time signature. Uh, all the cut up beats and all that stuff. Like what people seem to gravitate to now, like is the, kind of a more 4/4 sound, techno industrial, which makes sense, for a party. You want people to dance.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, it's interesting looking back at it, where you have this pop current with synth pop, and you have the broken beat current, which makes it also inaccessible. You know, like it took it all the Gabber and all that stuff. It just went so far with it.
Yeah.
I mean, I like some of it, but it cleared rooms. So like,
I think that's why it scared a lot of promoters and stuff, and people that hired DJs that played all the Anzen and the Hands and the Ad Nauseam stuff, was that those DJs maybe didn't know how to work it in a room, and they're like, I want to play some cool stuff, but hey, let me drop this. You should
yeah,
like it because it's cool. And then people are like, I can't dance to this, so they just go in another room.
yeah, they go, and yeah. So now it's been reconciled with this, back to the 4/4, right? It's just interesting to see the evolution. Where do you see it going from here? Haven't seen the last, I guess, 20 years. Like, what is the next 5, 10, 20 years?
Whoa.
Any,
I don't think I could see that far, but
any
I
ideas?
well, I can tell you just from, you mean in the industrial world, or like in the whole industrial techno world?
I'm both. You know, I feel like there's a lot of overlap now. You know.
Hmm. I really have. I think it's just gonna keep cannibalizing and eat itself and go back every 10 years, and I think it's just going to go retro, and then like the industrial scene, like that's just my opinion. I think it's just gonna it runs out of ideas, and I mean that goes for any scene, but I think the industrial scene is just gonna like go back and maybe, you know, do like a weird I don't know, maybe like a future pop what do you call that, that genre, or I don't know, like a weird like V&V Nation Suicide Commando hybrid. Maybe you're gonna get like electro with some synth sounds, some trancey sounds again, and
Mhm.
I don't know. I have no clue, because I go to those clubs and I go for friends, and the promoters are great and I have a good time, but honestly, like I get bounced from room to room and I don't know which room to go in, because I'm really not into the music. You know, I'm not into a lot of the you know, music that they call industrial today in the clubs.
Well, they play the same stuff from 20 years ago usually, or whatever, or stuff. Even the
Yeah, I
stuff that's more
swear.
recent, but that kind of fits with that, you know. So yeah, I feel you. And it's
Yeah, I swear though, like I would hear stuff and I was like, oh, is this like a Suicide Commando track? It's like, oh no, this dropped like last week. It's the new something or another. You know, like, oh, well, this sounds exactly like Suicide Commando, but you know,
right.
worse, or
Well,
maybe
there's
polished. You know, like I don't like that polished sound, like the polished. It's some of that is cool for like psytrance stuff is great polished, but for industrial, I don't like polished EDM beats. You know, like I
yeah,
don't like that. It's just too shiny. You know.
yeah. It's interesting that like the new generation figured out how to copy the old generation stuff really well now. You have these projects that pop up like that high functioning Flash. You remember those guys? When
Yeah,
that
so
and it's like,
Captains
well,
of the Watch now.
yeah, and it sounded good. I like them, but you know, it sounds like Cabaret Voltaire, you know, and it's like
Yeah.
it's a weird resurgence of that '80s industrial, you know.
See, it would be great if that eventually evolved to less lo-fi, but that sound, I mean, not as cheesy as, you know, like there's a lot of retro, or there's a lot of legacy EBM bands that are, I mean, they're all over Europe for the festivals and stuff. They're still going on. They don't sound like they did in the early 90s. They sound really polished, you know, like
Yeah,
not that way, but it would be cool for some of these bands, like maybe we'll see that type of composition and like these, you know, the way the music goes, that has a retro feel but a more polished, better sounding thing, or a little bit more experimental, you know, like just going crazy with it. Like, you know, I think people feel comfort in that sound. That's why they brought it back. You know, they feel like all that other stuff maybe scared them away, like this goblin trance stuff, you know, just scared everybody away. And they want to feel comfort, and there
yeah,
aren't enough tracks. I mean, there's a lot of EBM tracks, but maybe there isn't enough Cabaret Voltaire tracks. We've heard it all, so we got to make new ones. You
yeah. You
know,
got to make new ones, and they do a good job with it. And
you know, and it's like that's what those people do. You know, they're good at it. They're good at doing this retro sound. There's a place for it. You know.
but the funny thing is, like with those old like Skinny Puppy back in the day, like listen, if you're sitting right now and you're sampling '80s horror movies, you know, and but those guys were sampling '80s horror movies in the '80s because that's what just came out, you know, like there's a bit of a disconnect happening, like between. I mean,
Oh
yeah,
man.
it's like I understand paying an homage to it, but it's
You know what? During this whole thing, when it first started, I was like, I finally caught up, and I watched Mandy, and I was
yeah,
like, oh my god, somebody's gonna sample this movie. There's a lot of cool shit in this movie. Like, and like I'm waiting for industrial bands to sample Mandy. I'm sure, if anybody listens, like they'll do it now. But like, it's such a great. There's so many great films now, or media
I
even.
know there's so much, and it's just funny when you hear, you know, when you hear
I
80s
don't. I
samples.
don't dig. I don't know. I just don't like. I don't like Bush and Trump samples. Even though I'm guilty of doing that in a song, but it's not really recognizable. I
Yeah,
don't like that because I mean I'm not going to get political, but
it will date your stuff later, because
that's one thing.
you
Definitely, that's one thing. But another thing is like they don't have the charisma of like a Reagan or even a George Bush Sr. And I'm not saying that like Reagan was the best guy or like George Bush was the best guy, but you have to listen to phonetics, and when you're sampling something, you're listening to how it sounds, the rhythm of things. Reagan, great speaker, like
he's an actor. He was an actor. The guy was he can deliver
yeah,
lines.
that was his thing before president. George Bush, great, the first one, great, New World Order. Come on, that
Yeah,
was great sample. But you
true.
can't get a GW Bush, you can't get a Trump, you know, maybe Obama, but it's like a weird. I don't know. You have to find the right context for that.
Obama was almost like too good at delivering lines. Like he was like if an android was programmed to the for perfect speech cadence. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
he had
weird.
charisma, but he wasn't my favorite speaker or president as a speaker. Like
You know?
now looking back, I disagree with every single president in my lifetime, but like now looking back, it's like, wow, he was. I kind of miss him being president. Like as much as I criticized him back then, about certain things. But yeah, when you're sampling, like you have to look at the phonetics of stuff, and like if you're gonna sample presidents and things like that, I would go for Reagan, Bush Senior, but like a Trump and a George and a GW, like I that's one of the things that I nitpick is like listening to songs that have those samples in them. I'm like, like even what, Test Department did a good job of it. Like I was watching Philip Strobel on the horror thing, and he played a Test Department track, where they had the Trump samples, and that was interesting. That was done in a very creative way, so I'll give a pass on that. But anything, if I hear if I go to a club and I hear Trump, I don't want to dance. Like
Yeah,
it just
it's a
doesn't like.
little bit of a buzzkill. I mean,
It is, and it's also like it's like shooting fish in a barrel too. Like you're gonna
I
get
know it's too
90%.
easy.
Yeah.
I even hear like comedians talk about it when they're like making Trump jokes. It's kind of like it's like
Well,
the low hanging fruit. It's like
it also
yeah,
it also goes back to like the roots of industrial music is being provocative. That's not provocative. Everybody knows, or everybody like a lot of people feel that way about the president. You're not You're kind of jabbing at a wound, but
yeah.
you're not really like doing anything to wake up people or to trigger people, but in a good way. You're not really doing anything that's provocative. And I feel like that was what was going on also, like with a lot of industrial in the late 2000s, and you had blood and all this like makeup and stuff, and it's like it's not provocative. It's not industrial music, you know.
Yeah, it's interesting. I like the jabbing at figureheads instead of institutions seems weird because
Yeah.
they're just spearheading this whole thing. So yeah, I can see. I don't like that either. So I think so. We got these streams coming up. Anything else you're doing that you want to talk about, like that's coming up?
Yes. So I mean, very totally different from the Trevello stuff, I'm still going to be doing that on the back burner, but it's not really meant for like the industrial world or, you know, industrial scene. I have a project called Damascus Knives, and
Right. Yeah, I like that one.
it's sort of my reaction to because okay, you asked me about where things are going, and I think in the techno realm, in you know your little niche scene in the techno realm, everything was going towards the EBM techno, right? It was more the industrial techno was more of like the noisy stuff, like that was the stuff that really drew me in, and then it kind of switched to like the EBM stuff, like you know like the Phase Fatale, and it's cool. I like it, but that's not me, you know. And I got to keep going down the noisier route. But you know, I thought it was interesting, and I'm like, well, let me try to feed on that influence and like try to do a project. And it just more ended up being more of like an EBM meets acid house project,
Mm.
you know, the Damascus Knives thing. And I don't want to give too much away, but the Damascus Knives project, you know, if people are like looking too deep into it, it doesn't it doesn't mean anything, and it's like kind of a reflection of things. It's like a I didn't look into any names, any song names, or the project name, and say this is some deep thing that I'm trying to create. You know, like it's just something that's almost like a reflection of things. But I'm excited because this week was it? I'm trying to prep for June 1st. Everybody's trying to prep for June 1st because of the Bandcamp day, you know. But I'm trying to polish up this EP that I have that's been you know sitting, and trying to release that by June 1st. But I also have a video, a
Oh,
music video that's
nice.
coming out for the Damascus Knives project, and it features some friends of mine. So the band Hex or Hey X Hex. I don't know how to
Oh,
properly.
okay. So did you shoot the video a while back, or is this?
This was originally, I don't know if I should mention this, but originally it was I mean it's sort of been on the shelf for a little bit.
Okay.
So the director you know person who made it is Francesco Bernotti, which is really he's a very talented individual who's I've worked with before on another video, and he's got this huge awesome resume, and you know hopefully we'll get that out by this week before Bandcamp Day,
Nice.
and that EP will be out, and it's fun. Like if anybody's been catching the DJ sets that I do on the Wave TV weekend, the Damascus Knives DJ sets, it's sort of similar in that vibe where I love like that the EBM resurgence came back to the techno world, but I don't want to just copy, you know, like it's great to just throw something else in there. So I love the acid house stuff, and there's some cool like, you know, just borrowing and sampling and throwing in just weird, crazy samples and stuff like that. And, you know, everybody loves the acid bass line, you know, so that too is like, it's like butter. It's like butter, you
It's
know,
like butter,
it's like,
man.
it melts, you know, you hear that and you're like, oh, everything's going to be okay.
That
You know?
that squelchy 303 sound, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's going to be a little more accessible. So I'm not pushing it as like this is Trevello, like because the Trevello stuff is I don't think it's accessible. You can't even spell the name or remember it.
Well,
So
I think that's sort of endearing.
I did that for a reason. So you know I'm not trying to get like huge with that project. You know I just want people to enjoy it. You know, but
Yeah.
the Damascus Knives is a little bit more accessible, and I have other projects that are accessible. That are coming up, and also Body Divide. Body Divide is my retro EBM band that
Yeah,
I do.
I like that last release you did with that, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. Like it's just more of a live project than really a studio project because me and Chris, the singer, we just have a lot of fun, you know, playing live. And we did a dive tour that Dive came here and played some shows on the West Coast, and we followed him Seattle, Portland, and San Francisco, and we had like the funnest time. Like,
That's awesome.
yeah, like you know Peter and Dirk, and you know we were just like really having a great time. Had made new friends, buds. Um, but yeah, so we got that Body Divide. Hopefully, me and Chris can hook up here in this studio and record some vocals for his part, because we have some music for that. And there's other stuff that's I can't really speak of. And just really like, yeah, if everybody could tune in on Thursdays till Sundays, it's great. It's like a great weekend. We have Plague Luster, Anna, who does a really great set, dark techno set, and
Yeah.
you beforehand, you've got the East Coast time, and that helps a lot. And then I go on Thursdays, and then Friday we have our noise night, and then Saturday is like horror meets minimal wave, and dark wave, and like Italo.
Hmm.
And then Sunday we have 80s with Arkame, which is not strictly 80s. You've got 80s, you've got some funk, you've got Chromeo, but it's my friend Mark who's got this great way of blending visuals and like doing crazy. It's like, if you're gonna have a Sunday after like a long loud weekend, this is like the best place to tune in. Is like,
Yeah, I checked it out one Sunday. It was pretty cool. It's definitely like
yeah.
synthwave V type stuff there.
Oh man! And then you get to hear the Harold Faltermeyer like Fletch theme song. Come on!
Yes.
I go every weekend, every Sunday. I tune in just to hear the Fletch theme song. So
Yeah, that Fletch and Beverly Hills Cop,
yeah,
they're very close together there. But yeah, Harold F. Man, let's represent. I wonder what happened with that guy. Does he still do soundtrack work? Because
he's doing new stuff. Actually, Mark also plays which he's trying to sell me on, is Cop Out. Cop Out was a recent movie that came out. You can look that
I
up.
saw that. I saw that on Netflix. Yeah, I don't think I didn't watch it, but I saw that. So he did the soundtrack for that.
He did, and if you notice,
Oh,
it
I'm gonna have to
sounds
watch it now.
similar to like Beverly Hills Cop, but
Oh
not
man.
quite.
Okay.
It's like a little cleaner. It's
I
still
tell
cool.
you, that Beverly Hills Cop theme. I mean, it's like an urban classic. I don't know, because I know people that don't really do music, but they know how to play that.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah,
Oh,
I
no,
used to.
sure.
I figured this
Totally.
out, and I know how to play it. And I'm like, whoa, really? Okay, I know all the parts. I'm like, So,
That and Home Sweet Home. I always play Home Sweet Home whenever I'm like by a piano. Like, those are like very recognizable melodies, and
yeah, it's, yeah. And do you have a musical background, like some kind of formal?
I went to City University of New York. My campus was the Upper East Side, and it's a school that was primarily for nurses, but they
Okay.
had a music program.
So you did, okay.
I didn't get a degree because I was young and stupid, and I basically went there and took all the music courses that I could, and I had fun going to college and taking the music courses. But the thing is, when you go to college, you're supposed to go and get guidance, because they tell you like what you should be taking every year, because there are
Yeah.
prerequisites and stuff. And I found myself in my third year, and I had taken all these music classes, but they're like, you need to take like first year math and science and all this other shit. And I'm like, but I'm on ear training like 3, like I'm like, it was really great. And I was getting A's. I was getting straight A's. They were like awesome courses in music theory.
That's
And I had
awesome.
I still have the books, and I'm like, whenever I have time, which it should be now, I'll go back and I'll look through all the music theory stuff, and I'll sharpen all my skills. So I do have like a little bit of a background, but it's not anything that's like accredited. I had a lot of fun learning music. I think everybody should do that. Everybody should learn something about music theory, because it definitely like helps whenever.
Yeah, it opens up another world.
And I did play guitar. I played guitar for a goth band for like a few years. So.
Did you? Okay. What was the goth band? The goth band that you played guitar?
A band name you've probably never heard of in New York, based in Brooklyn, was the Spirit Valentine. We had
All right.
one big gig, and it was like the luckiest gig ever, because we got invited to play in Beijing, China, for their or they were celebrating not even getting the Olympics, but their bid for the Olympics.
Wow.
So they had a huge party, and they were like, "We need an American rock band." So we were like the lucky goth rock bands that we sort of sounded like a mix between Killing Joke, Susie, and like, I don't know, like Sisters of Mercy. Like, it was all a combination of all that stuff. But they flew us out. They took us to like the Great Wall of China.
What? That sounds amazing.
It was amazing, and it was all paid by the government of China, which
The
was,
PRC hooked you up, eh?
yeah, it was great. But unfortunately, I think the same year they wanted us back too. But the same year, like, I think Clinton by accident like bombed one of their planes. I don't know. There was something where like we bombed something, and they're like, "Oh well, the relations aren't looking too good." So like,
Oh, man.
and then 9/11 happened, and then everything kind of changed after that. So.
Yeah, that's crazy. But that's pretty amazing. Well, maybe you'll play guitar for another goth band in the future. We'll see.
Oh yeah, I got my guitar right here, just waiting.
Just waiting. Yeah, I don't hear too much guitar in your tracks, but sure.
The opening to the last album was all guitar feedback.
Was it? Okay. Yeah, I figure you kind of blend it in there a little bit. So.
And that's how I met Chris, the singer for Body Divide. Was he was in a punk band, and I was playing guitar for the punk band. I auditioned, and I got the part to play like in a punk band, because I always wanted to play in a punk band.
Yeah.
And then that kind of split apart. But I was like, this guy sings. I like the way he shouts. Like, so let me grab onto him and let me do something with him. So kind of how I met him, Chris.
That's pretty cool. How long ago was that?
That was a couple of years, I think. That was because we did like a power electronics thing called the Torture Gallery.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun doing that. But then we sort of went to a different direction.
I definitely dug the Body Divide stuff. That's pretty cool. Well, David, thank you for showing up and having this conversation with me here.
Thank you.
I always appreciate you, and you're such a good sport, and you're always making it to Detroit. I almost feel like you're part of the Detroit crew here. So
anytime. I love Detroit. I love, man, that barbecue spot that's like right next to your studio.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that place is amazing. Like the smell. Oh man.
Yeah, I don't have that studio anymore, but the barbecue spot is still there. So
I will still go there. I will still make the trip there.
No, it's pretty cool. Yeah, hopefully we can hang out soon. And yeah, man, thanks a lot.
I'm sure of it. Thank you. And
I'll see you in the chat room Thursday.
Oh, shizzle.
Okay.